Did you know that effective communication is one of the major factors for building strong and healthy relationships and marriages? Studies show that couples who communicate openly and honestly have a higher chance at lasting and fulfilling connections. So, on today's video, we will be diving into how mastering communication can help to strengthen your bond and deepen your relationships. You're welcome to today's episode of Finding Love with Grace Renner. I am Grace Renner, your host. Finding Love is a relationship and marriage show that instills the right foundation for marriage with the understanding that marriage is God's idea. It's a show for anyone who is ready for the journey of marriage or already married and desires to do marriage the way the Creator has designed it. As we said, marriage is God's idea. Now, for the past couple of weeks, or last week, we started talking about communication, in relationships. Last week, we talked about the importance of communication in relationships. Now, today, we'll be talking about some key factors, that consist of poor communication in relationships. So, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go right now and subscribe. Tap the button just at the right hand corner there to subscribe. And do well to like this video, comment, and share it so that more people can see it. Thank you very much. You're welcome back. Now, poor communication in relationships stems from different factors, from poor listening skills to defensiveness to passive aggression to lack of trust to, external pressure and the likes. Essentially, when one or both partners is unable to openly or honestly communicate their feelings or needs, these things lead to poor communication in relationships. Now, let's delve more into these things that I've listed. Number one, poor listening skills. Not paying attention to your partner, not listening to understand, not validating their feelings, or leaving them feeling unheard. Now, some of us have the bad habit of not paying attention, just listening to reply as opposed to listening to understand. Now, the moment you listen to reply, you miss the points that your partner might be making, or interrupting them will make them, not to be able to freely express what they wanted to say, forget the points that they could have made that would help fix the relationship, or invalidating their feelings. I've come to realize that one of the most draining things in a relationship could be a partner who doesn't validate your feelings. Okay, now the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 27 verse 23, it says, a shepherd should pay close attention to the faces of his flock and hold close to his heart the condition of those he cares for. Now, we do not have to understand what our partner is saying to validate them. That empathy, that show of empathy is so important in communication. I do not understand you. Yes, however, I see what you're saying, I feel what you're saying, and just being there, listening to them, paying attention, not being distracted during conversations, not pressing phones, not acting disinterested, because these things hinder, healthy communications in the relationship. Now, number two factor that leads to poor communication in relationships is defensiveness. Reacting to criticism with justification, feeling angry when being corrected, Now, let me say this. Never ever get angry with the feedback from your partner. It is out of love that someone will tell you the truth. Okay? So when we're defensive during correction, it prevents genuine connection in the relationship. It prevents open communication in that relationship. Defensiveness is a sign that you're unwilling to change. You're unwilling to see things through your partner's eyes. You're unwilling to put yourself in your partner's shoes. And what then happens in the long run is that your partner would not be able to openly communicate how they feel about certain things because you would be defensive. Or the fact that you're not even willing to change will prevent them from, saying it anyway. So you want to make sure that you're that partner who listens without being defensive. Criticism is not a time for comeback. It's a time for sit down and think about it. Every time your partner tells you something that you have done wrong or feels a certain way about a certain behavior that you have exhibited, listen to them. Don't be defensive. Don't try to justify your actions. Now, the Bible says in Hebrews chapter 12 verse 6 that for whom the Lord loves, he disciplines and he scourges every son whom he receives. And this emphasizes that God's correction or discipline is not rejection. It is love and care. Same as your partner. When your partner corrects you, it's not a form of rejection. It's a sign that they love you. Like they say, it's only a good person or someone who truly loves you that will tell you your faults. Okay, or tell you that your mouth is smelling. That's how they say it. So listen without being defensive. Number 3, unresolved conflicts. Now, leaving issues unresolved can cause conflict, can build resentment between partners. And guess what? It will hinder communication because when partners are angry with each other, when they have built up resentment towards each other, they will not be able to communicate freely and openly. Now, the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down on your wrath. Always try as partners to resolve issues as they happen. Resolve them immediately so that you do not, start to build up resentment. When resentment starts to build up, it affects communication in that relationship. Now, number 4 factor that leads to poor communication in relationship is differing communication style. Now, people have different methods of communicating, from indirect to direct communication. Now, what I would say is study your relationship to know what works for you. Okay, you don't want to be misunderstood or misinterpreted in your conversations with your partner. So as much as possible, you want to be assertive. Or let me say it this way, assertiveness works for many relationships. Okay, so it's not about being rude, it's about stating your facts and your points clearly so that you're clear, you're understood, everyone gets you. Now, let me also say this, okay? Variety is the spice of life. God created us differently. Okay, we have different communication styles. So as partners, it's important that you be accommodating of your partner's communication style. However, do make the necessary adjustments needed, so that you can understand each other clearly. You would not misinterpret each other or be confused during communication. Okay, now let me give a personal example. I remember when I newly got married to my husband, every time we're having communication or conversations rather, he would check out. And I started to wonder why would he always check out when we're having conversations? And one day I asked him, I said, why is it that when we're talking you just check out? He said, because you do not go straight to the point. You go here, go there. And I thought about it, I examined myself and I realized that was true. I'd learned a very wrong way to communicate, or should I say it this way? Let me not say it was wrong because in our relationship it wasn't working. So I learned a communication method that wasn't working in our relationship. Yes, it worked, in my previous relationship, it worked with my siblings, it worked with my friends, but here in the marriage it wasn't working. So let me tell you what I used to do. I would, because I didn't want to be so direct, I'll start with examples, I'll start with proverbs, I'll start with, preambles. And by the time I was done with my preambles, my husband already checked out before I even hit the nail on the head. So I had to learn to be assertive, to just go straight to the point. Now, I do not know what your story is, but what I would say is study your relationship, study your partner to see what works for you. I know that assertiveness works in most relationships. However, some partners do not like their partners being too direct. They feel maybe hurt, they feel, disrespected. There are different methods of communicating. Study your relationship, to know what works. As long as the communication is working, that's all that matters. Now, number 5 factor that leads to poor communication in relationship is lack of trust. Now, when one partner feels that they cannot be honest with their spouse or their partner because of fear of judgment or retaliation, this can hinder open communication in the relationship. Now, it's important to know that trust is a very, very important ingredient in a relationship. Lack of trust will definitely hinder communication in a relationship. Now, what do I say to you? No matter the fear of judgment or retaliation, it's important that you're honest in your communication. It's important that you're honest with your partner. Now, I understand that some partners can be very judgmental, but regardless of that, it's important that you put your integrity first before any other thing. Now, let me also say this, When it involves a third party, if you know that you have a partner who doesn't really know how to manage information, when these conversations involve a third partner, in order to protect that third partner, it's okay not to give off too much details, too much information. However, make sure that you are honest. Honesty is the key word here. Make sure that you're open and honest. However, manage the information, in a way that the third party is protected. Why? Because I do not know the kind of partner that you have. Maybe they're one who, like I said, doesn't manage information. Maybe the information might come right back to you through the person whom was involved. Now, you want to make sure that you prevent such. Also, you want to, well, if your partner is the type of person who maybe when you tell certain things, they would go and approach a third party or might tell somebody else, thereby jeopardizing, your relationship with that person. You want to make sure that you protect, that space, that person. Now, what am I saying in essence? As honest as you can be in your conversations with your partner. However, if you have a partner, and also make sure that whatever information you're keeping is not detrimental to your partner. Very important. However, if it's going to be detrimental to a third party and you know that you have a partner who doesn't manage information very well, please and please, by all means, protect that information, manage the information such that in your honesty with your partner, the third party is also protected. Now, back to what I was saying, fear of judgment. If you're that partner who, is very judgmental, I urge you to stop doing that today. Pay attention, have an out of body experience. Pay attention to how you respond to your partner. Does my response make my partner want to be open with me? Okay, if you're that kind of partner who always retaliates, who is always wanting to come back, give a comeback, pay attention to that as well. That hinders communication in a relationship. Okay, now because of time, we will stop here, but then we'll have a part 2 tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening. Please, if you have not subscribed to this channel, do go right now. Just tap the little button there and just subscribe and share this video. Now, before I let you go, I have one announcement to make. Singles Hangout 6 is here. We have an event coming up on the 28th of June. It's called Singles Hangout. This is the 6th edition. We've had 5 successful editions. So go now to the description box or description corner. You will see details of how you can register to attend this event. Kindly register. It's only 5,000 naira to secure a seat. Trust me, it's going to be worth your while. We'll have games, we'll have interactive sessions. It's going to be a fantastic event. You don't want to miss it. Register and tell somebody else to register. Thank you so much. Once again, I remain Grace Renner, and I'll see you tomorrow.